Hello and good morning. Welcome to the third day of the Friday Drinks and Sahwira Marketplace. We're here and we've got an interesting guest, Gloria from Old Mutual, who flew all the way. And we're going to hear quite a number of things, quite a number of products that they have. But just to start off, what are you actually drinking, Gloria?
Thank you for having me here. It's lovely to be here. I'm drinking the Moroccan tea that you guys offered me. Quite nice.
Yeah, it is.
Black, no sugar, no milk.
Well done. And you?
I'm having tea as well, but turmeric.
Okay. Still early in the day.
Yeah, it's a bit early in the day for more interesting things.
All right. Gloria, thank you very much for coming by. Maybe you can just start off by just telling us exactly your role and what Old Mutual is all about.
Okay, thank you. So my role, I'm responsible for the Old Mutual Insurance Company in Zimbabwe. So that's the company that does the general insurance, or what we can also call property and casualty. That's insurance for your cars, for your buildings, for your businesses. So that's what I'm responsible for. But coming to why we are here, so we offer an integrated financial services product. So when we look at our customers, we have one key value proposition that we give our customers. We want to be our customers' first choice to grow, to sustain, and to protect their wealth. And this is both the personal customers as well as business customers. So when we are looking at this market, which is the Zimbabweans that are in the diaspora, we are extending the same value proposition to them because they can reach us through digital platforms and still buy the same products that we offer. If I'm to go into what is it about Old Mutual that is integrated, I can look at it from first banking and lending. We've got a bank in the form of CABs, as you know. And then we also have a microfinance unit, Old Mutual Finance. So any lending needs that people might have individually or for their businesses, they can get from that lending arm. We also have the insurance pillar, where we have life insurance, and we also have the property and casualty that I spoke about earlier. We also have under the funeral assurance and services as well. And then we also have the mobile wallet, Omari, the famous Omari. So we can also do mobile wallet transactions. And on the mobile wallet, we also have our integrated products accessible and available on there. And lastly, we also have securities. So someone can trade through Old Mutual Securities on the stock exchange. And that offers the flexibility to our diasporan customers as well. They can have their portfolios managed by Old Mutual, their investments managed by Old Mutual, their assets protected by Old Mutual, their banking and transactional needs managed by Old Mutual. So for us, we see this offering as very convenient for customers, whether they are in London, whether they're in Harare, whether they're in Johannesburg, or wherever the Zimbabweans are, they can still access all these products in an integrated fashion. So that's our main proposition.
Okay, fantastic. And I assume that you're the oldest insurance company in Zimbabwe. Would that be true?
That is very true. So Old Mutual is 175 years old, but in Zimbabwe, it's been operating for more than 128 years. So that's quite old. So long, trusted brand.
Fantastic. And you've seen the turbulence, of Zimbabwe and even before Zimbabwe. And also, I suppose people who took your product have expired by now, some at the beginning. And I think it speaks to, the anticipation or the testimony of how you know exactly what customers want. Yes. So my question really is around, let's say, the people in the diaspora. What do you think their main pain points are? What would somebody who has just maybe left Zim and has joined the workforce in the UK, and they're a nurse or social worker, and they're looking at you, what do you think, or how can you help them with where they are in life?
Sure. So let me step back and say, I think just from a human being point of view, people always want to be connected to home. So I know people's circumstances are different in terms of why they would have moved. some might not want direct connection from home for whatever reasons they are. But I think in the main, a human being always wants to be connected to their roots. So in one way or another, we need to always find a way that we can provide solutions and gateways for the diasporans in Zimbabwe to still stay connected home, whether it's financially or just contributing to the economic development of the country. So when we present our solutions to our customers, we're basically saying the same solutions that we have can help you financially, but in the same way, because we invest in things that ensure also national development, you're also contributing to the growth of the country. So I think to start with there. And then when we came, we've been going around into the diaspora, and we've also been picking some of the needs that they have. And the top ones that we've picked out is that people always want to have something back home, whether it's a home. They always want to have maybe a business, whether it's a small business or they're hustling, whatever, so that they take care of family that is at home. So there is that need to access finance home. There's also that need for someone to be able to finance acquisition of their assets, but also manage those same assets. And we provide all that. So you'd find that a lot of the people that we interviewed would say, look, I was building this and I was sending money through a relative. And then, when I went to actually see the building, project, there was nothing. And this is why we are here with our investments group, the property arm. Your money is safe. You can send through your money. The property development is managed for you. It's built. We are able to sustain it for you. We protect it via insurance. We can lease it out for you and things like that. Then the other need that we picked out is that, people always want a decent burial, whether for themselves or for their family back at home. So we also found that funeral services are top of mind, just that decency that comes with that. So we obviously offer that, together with our partners that are hosting us here. The third one, I think, is really around retirement. So at some point, you'll find that people would always want to make their way back home. And they want to see how that would look like when they're 60 and 65 and they're relocating back home. What have they been able to build or save that can then sustain their retirement back at home? So those three key needs is what we've really picked out. But obviously there are many needs because remember, it's also generations. There are those that are nearing retirement. There are those that are just starting to work. And then there's those that are still in school and maybe a bit more detached from home, but they will always have a need to connect back into those routes. So our solutions give that connection.
Okay, fantastic. So what I picked up is it's never too early to actually talk to somebody like Old Mutual because you'll always have a need.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
And I think one of the things that is perhaps coming back in vogue is planning for retirement and buying these a life policy because over the last 20 years, one of the things that happened in Zimbabwe is that we had a tremendous value destruction because of hyperinflation. And people are still quite skeptical about these products in terms of pensions and life assurance. And a lot of, a lot of people believe that they're better off making their own retirement plan, whether it's a small project that generates cash flow or investing in property and that sort of thing. But I think, we're well past that trauma and it makes sense to actually give some of these products like, in the universe of pensions and life, a good hard look. And what you guys are obviously in that space, what would you say to somebody who is thinking about their retirement and looking at options?
All right. So the first thing, I think you kind of touched on it, which is we really need to rebuild the confidence into these pension products because of what happened. I mean, this was a systemic challenge that affected across the sector, but I think probably hit more around the pensions area. But with saving for retirement, for me, it's always a discipline issue. You can choose to say, I will do this on my own and set things aside. But life does happen and you then tend to use that money for something else. But if you've got an arrangement that is being managed by you, you know that is taken care of and that you can't quite necessarily dip your hands into it whenever there's a challenge that you have and it's being preserved for you. But I think what I can then just assure our customers is that there's been learnings from the things that we've gone through as a nation that has led to loss of value and so on, that we then look at our products differently now. And we also make sure that for some of the pension funds, we're actually doing great things like investing in things that are value storing, value preserving into big projects. I will talk about some of the projects that we've done in the renewable energy space. I'll talk about projects we've done, property, in education, building campuses. So those things are tangible, that even if there's currency changes and shifts and hyperinflation, at least there's tangible storage of value in some of those products and linked to the particular pension funds to make sure that, they still enjoy their value. So I would still say that discipline of saving is very, very important. And if you are able to give it to the experts that can do that for you, without you having the temptation to use it for other things, for your day-to-day, I think it's very important.
Okay, great. And then one product that I know a lot of the people in the diaspora would be excited around is mortgages. What's the tenure like for somebody who's sitting in the UK?
Right. So our tenures are still very small, and this is because of the the investments that come in are on demand. The deposits are on demand, right? Mm-hmm. So at the moment we don't really have long-term money in Zimbabwe. So our mortgages were 5 years. Which is quite short, but I think for the diasporans we're looking at even 10 years,
okay.
Because we know that the amounts will come in the right currency and will then be able to structure such that we can raise the funds more long term. But that's the issue with mortgages in Zimbabwe. It's just the 10 years can't be as long as they can be, but we think that still there's value there. I think we can still be able to access that, do something that is quite good. And also with the appreciation of value in the properties, I think it's still a good deal for you to try and get something in Zim, even with those kind of terms.
Okay. And then short-term loans?
Short-term loans are available.
Okay.
So short-term loans are available, whether it's working capital loans or it's personal loans through the bank, but also through the microfinance, depending on where you are. So if you're also an SME or even the informal, you can then access those loans through our microfinance. So you can choose. We are very inclusive, so it can either be the bank or the microfinance institute.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would like to cover, especially for the diaspora market?
Yes, for the diaspora market. So the question is always, there would then be many financial services that you can access from Zimbabwe. And as Old Mutual, what we are saying is that, our proposition is anchored on 4 key pillars that would really be of interest. I think the first one is a trust factor, that we are a tried and tested brand with experts. You can trust that you'll find us tomorrow. We are not fly by night. We've been there for 128 years. We want to do even more years there. Our solutions are also inclusive. As I touched, everybody will be taken care of. Even if you have children who are learning outside the country, our mobile wallets they can use the Visa cards there. They can transact. You can deposit money into there. So very inclusive. Then we also have, as I had touched on a bit earlier on, that we invest in projects that also help in national development. We have had significant projects in the renewable energy space. I can mention a few. I think we've had Central Grid, which is giving 25 megawatts. We have the Great Zimbabwe. We also have Sino Hydro and many projects, because we also just launched 100 million renewable energy fund. And so there's opportunities for our customers in the diaspora to also participate, invest in those kind of projects, participate, get a good return, but at the same time, you are also building the nation. You are also contributing towards the good things that we're trying to do. In the education space, as I mentioned, we've just done Sim Campus, which takes care of 3 institutions in Blawa, including NAST. There's opportunity to replicate that across the country, because we have now many state universities, very little accommodation. Yes. So those opportunities, we have done this project, we can replicate it, and opportunities are there to actually then invest as well into those kinds of projects. Good returns, but also the legacy and the long-termness of what we are building as a country. We, as Old Mutual, also do a lot of community projects And we know that our customers and also even just diasporans, they want to connect back home through giving, through participating in some community activities. And that opportunity is also available. Sometimes you want to do it with a trusted partner. In fact, in most times you want to do it with a trusted partner, and we do a lot of work around that. So we have our 8 to 5 Innovation Hub that helps entrepreneurs. It was started in 2020, and so far I can say that we have touched the lives of 8,000 entrepreneurs and helped them grow their businesses. So our customers in the diaspora can also tap into that. They can also they can be virtual mentors in the system. Knowledge transfer, experiences transfer, because obviously as they are in the diaspora, they are also, garnering a lot of experience that they can plow back home. That opportunity is there through the 8 to 5 Innovation Hub. But there's also an opportunity to pick up on investment opportunities, because as you see the businesses being, yielded through the Innovation Hub, you can also choose to invest in one or two of those. And then we also run a financial awareness literacy program that is free. We reach millions of people every year for free, physically and virtually. We also reach students. We have a kids or students boot camp or children's boot camp over the holidays, just teaching basic financial skills. And we also invite our diasporan customers to tap into such programs for their children, for themselves, but also if they can plow back, if they think they can be part of the program, and also, again, knowledge transfer back home. I think that's some of the things that we do, yeah.
Very comprehensive. Thank you very much, Gloria, for joining us. And to our audience, this is the reason why you're here. It's a marketplace, and we get to interact with companies back home, and you can get in touch with them. And yeah, we can get it going. Thank you. And join us in the second segment. Cheers.
From the comfort of your home and wherever you may be.
Still Friday Drinks and Sahwira Marketplace, and we have Gloria. So beyond just working for Old Mutual, you've done and accomplished quite a lot as a woman in business. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you. There isn't much to my story. There isn't much to my story. I think my background is accounting. But I've worked in the insurance sector for the past 20 years. So I've worked in life insurance, I've worked in the GI space. And at some point I went and I served my institute of chartered accountants as the CEO. And then now I'm at Old Mutual. So that's the story.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's start. Why become an accountant?
Well, for me, I think it's on record. I've always said I was looking for a rewarding career.
Okay.
At the time that I joined accounting, I thought at the time that, the career advice I got at the time was that this is the way to go. If you want to be rewarded in your career, follow the CA route. And that's exactly what I did. And I must say that it's been fulfilling.
Okay. So if you have someone who's just starting out in chartered accountancy or is with a firm and they're looking at their trajectory, would you say that yours was fulfilling, and in what ways was it fulfilling?
Yeah. So for me, the way that I see the CA qualification, for me, it was a foundation. It was more a bridge and a passport to what I would want to do. So I can't quite define myself and what I do now as accounting, because that's not it. It's obviously leadership, but also the passionate leadership, but also strategic insights. So what I would say is that when you are looking at your basic, qualification or discipline, look at it with the lens that it's just taking you to destination. It's not your final destination, but still be whoever you want to be. I mean, I went on and I did law. I went on and I did business psychology because it was just evolving with who I was and the things that I was doing. So a discipline is never to limit you to be that, but it's to say what opportunities does it present for you That's how you map your career path, and it takes you where you want to be.
So earlier we were actually having this discussion around what CA training was all about. And the idea was it's leadership training. You're not necessarily training accountants, but
Yeah.
it's leadership. And I suppose the result was when you look at the ZSE listed companies for the longest, I would say that CA's dominated the leadership position. Would you say that it's part of the reason why Zimbabwe has failed is because we have tons and tons of these accountants heading organizations, so they can't move on with the times?
Absolutely not. And I can't believe you've just thrown that back at me. I think it's true that CAs do dominate leadership. And I think it's because of the training, really. It's a leadership development training. Much as it is focused on accounting, it brings out a whole lot more in you. And so you then find, not just in Zimbabwe, but generally, you just find there's certain disciplines that dominate in leadership. And obviously, if you are in a situation where there are challenges, in an economy, there are challenges in the corporate, and they are the leaders. You can easily put blame on there, but no, I wouldn't put blame on a particular discipline or on CAs. I think there are more issues that we need to contend with. So we can put a doctor there, an engineer there. Those two face the same. But probably I would say the CAs have done very well in holding fort despite the challenges that we've gone through.
What are your thoughts on accountants? So if we look at America or you look at the UK and you look at the sort of individuals that take on the CEO role or the senior executive roles, they're hardly accountants. And perhaps that's why NVIDIA or Silicon Valley does better than Zimbabwe.
Yeah, so I tend to agree with Gloria. I think, one of the challenges with the designation CA is, it describes this cohort of business leaders as accountants. But for the most part, if you actually engage with them and ask them what they do day to day, accounting, auditing is very little. It's a very small part of their role in the business world. And so I think the way that CAs are trained in Zim is different from the way the accountancy profession is structured in places like the US with the CPA program, and even to a lesser extent in the UK. So it's a bit different. I think in Zim it focuses on leadership. Certainly in my day, that is the criteria that mattered the most in terms of selection into the firms. What was your role in your last years at school? Where were you a leader? Do you have leadership potential? It wasn't so much about your aptitude with numbers. So I think it's different in that, and so the nature of the business in Zim is such that that cohort did extremely well and dominated the business world, like you alluded to, in terms of the number of CEOs on the ZSE who are of an accounting background. I think so I think it actually speaks to how impressive the cohort coming out of the firms were. And a lot of the challenges we've seen in Zim business are systemic. They're at a macroeconomic level. They're not they're not because of the personalities. Okay. That would be my take.
Okay. I think you guys have pushed back hard enough, and I'm just gonna push back one last time. And picking up on what you have said, that really it's not about accountancy, but it's about leadership. So I'll assume that the accounting firms are training leaders. Yeah?
Absolutely.
So if we were to look at Zimbabwe corporate sector, so not Zimbabwe as a country, but Zimbabwe corporate sector for the last 30 years, would you say that we have produced the best business leaders?
I think we have. Yes, we have. I mean, we've gone through a lot in Zimbabwe, and it's not been smooth. There's been a lot of firefighting and making sure that things work, and we've had resilient people actually running these businesses. Yes, we may then look at who closed or who has downsized or who has gone through judicial management. But you know what? I think there were people behind these businesses that were trying to keep them afloat and did the best they can. So I would say that we have really produced good people in Zimbabwe, a lot of resilience, a lot of commitment and hard work, but also a lot of driving and uncertainty is what has been there. If you look at how, we in the diaspora, so if you look at how the CAs, particularly here, there's a lot of CAs from Zimbabwe, South Africa, there's a lot of CAs from Zimbabwe. And if you see what they do, the kind of results, and even the demand for the CAs in the UK or Australia or anywhere else, it goes to show that there is something good that we put in there. So yeah, I do agree that we've done that.
And if you look at one of Zimbabwe's most successful entrepreneurs, Zed is an accountant. And if you look at, most of the businesses that he's involved in and built, a lot of the most powerful people in those businesses are CAs.
Okay, no, very good points. So if you were to look at your career over the last 20, 30 years, which leadership traits would you say were most valuable in understanding hyperinflation or in understanding the Zimbabwean environment?
Yeah. So the one around resilience will be one of the most important ones because of the many changes that we've gone through. So resilience, but also just managing change in itself. I think it becomes a very critical skill. And then being able to lead teams through those changes, difficult as they may have been. So I think a leader in Zimbabwe of today will have those skills, resilience, the good change manager. They're able to actually turn around cultures to fit the environment that you are riding through at that particular point in time. But when I look at just general leadership skills, I just think that obviously in an environment like that, there's need for a lot of empathy. You need to be able to understand and appreciate that you're dealing with human beings. And if you're dealing with human beings, they are also facing these hardships that you're facing at a corporate level, but even at personal
levels, yeah,
affecting them emotionally. So wellness of people becomes very, very important when you're a leader. So that empathy becomes very important. The emotional intelligence as well, to also be able to be aware socially of things that are happening around you, but also of yourself and how it is that you can be able to lead better. So that's what I would say, key skills.
And accountancy leadership generally has been male-dominated. How has it been for you as a woman?
Yeah, so it has been male-dominated, but I must say that there's also been a shift over the years. So there has been an increase in females in the field of accounting, but also just generally in leadership. It might not be to the magnitude that we would want and as fast as we would want. I'll give the example of the CAs. So I was the second female president of ICAS at their 100-year point. So you can already tell that it had been predominated by males. But, now I think we've had maybe 3 more ladies, and we have got under ICAS a Women Chartered Accountants Network that is now working towards making sure that opportunities are made available to women as well. But much as we say that, I think for us as an accounting profession, we've also always said that gender was never really an issue. I think the moment you were able to qualify into those articles, you were enough. You didn't need to, there was never a lot of distinction between male and female. It was just always about merit. Are you able to deliver on your work? Have you passed your exams? Good. But I think the thing that could have affected women was maybe presenting themselves as well, availing themselves for opportunity, which a lot of women are really going all out to do now. So it's one thing to qualify, it's one thing to have the necessary knowledge and skills, but it's another to also present yourself available for opportunities. So it's a bit of both. So the opportunities must also be presented, they must be presented, and people must step up to also get those opportunities. So I think a lot has happened, and a lot is in the mills, a lot is happening right now in the accounting field, and even in our universities. I think I saw a tweet the other time which was saying there's more females than males in our universities. Well,
Yes.
there's more females than males generally in the economy. But when you're now talking about our tertiary institutions having more females, and if you go to graduations, the prize winners, guys, to be honest, you see women. I actually see a situation where maybe 10 years from now, we'll be talking about how do we re-empower our men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, and I wanna hear your thoughts on that, because that is not necessarily a bad thing that more women are in university, but part of the reason why less men are in universities, it's because they're worried about their livelihoods. So it doesn't make sense, for example, especially in the first world, to go to university and you pay, $200,000-$300,000, and you're down $200,000-$300,000 in debt, and then you have to cover that up. Whereas a lot of men now are going to, apprenticeship or things that have to do with your hands so that they earn quite early on. But what are your thoughts on that? More and more women are getting into universities and into corporate.
Look, I think that's a good thing. I think the world is a better place for it. It just means that, it's another big crack in, the glass ceiling. But yeah, I tend to agree with your take that what's also happening is that, and not just globally, but in Zimbabwe, people are worried about making a living, making ends meet. And, what 20, 30 years ago was the consensus was going through university is the fastest path to earning a decent living. That's no longer true in Zimbabwe anymore because the formal sector is shrinking. It's not doing so well. And, unfortunately, there's this Mbinga role model out there in the public imagination, that, it's not about passing exams and getting qualifications and working your way through a corporate ladder. It's about getting onto the street and hustling. So, I don't know whether that's sustainable or progressive, but that's just the reality.
Yeah. Could you give us 3 things that you worry about the most? Like, what are the 3 things on your desk that you worry about the most?
Okay. I don't worry a lot, but yeah, I would find 3 things that So, on my desk, I'm a risk manager, right? So I'm managing risks. So you're always worrying about the trends that you're seeing in the economy, that lead to elevating risks. But at the same time, when you're worrying about elevating risks, again, it presents opportunities for us. So the worry is, okay, there is a risk. We need to find a solution for it. It has to be covered, protected, but also there has to be risk management measures to curb it so that it doesn't become catastrophic for us. So you're always worrying about the risk environment, but not from a negative point of view, but from a solutions-driven point of view. How can we solution for it? How can we provide a solution? But also, how can we, put in risk management measures to curtail it? Then the second one that I would worry about is just our human capital. I think there's just so much going on. And I did mention earlier on about the issue around wellness. I think it became more pronounced after the COVID era. I think when we're kind of away from the offices and when we came back and we realized how much damage, just the pandemic had done to us as human beings, being separated, being isolated in some cases and losing family, it has brought the issues of mental health and just general awareness to the fore. So you need to be cognizant, aware of the fact that you're working with people that are also having to deal with so many things. And for them to produce to the levels that you want, I think you need to find measures to keep them well engaged. And wellness becomes a very big part. Then the last bit that I would say, we were talking about worries, but yes. So there's multi-generations now in the workplace. So just being able to lead multi-generations comes with its own issues in that they react and do things differently. So if you're talking about the older generations, they have things that they worry about. They are worrying now about their retirement and what they would want out of employment is different. And then you come to your Gen Zs, They've got a totally different perspective. The Gen Zs will tell you that they will resign from London. They'll tell you, I've left your laptop at the reception area. And that's the kind of people that we're dealing with. So it's managing people, because we are financial services. We don't sell tangible products. We sell a service. We sell promises to our customers, and we do it through people. People are very, very important. So it's just being able to look at the whole spectrum of people that you lead across generations and say, how do I bring out the best in them so that they can serve our customers in the best way possible?
Okay, brilliant. In line with that, especially the generational dynamic, which is in the workplace, I think we've got about 4 generations in the workplace today. What would you say? What's your advice to somebody who's about to retire? Should they actually retire? Do you think that 65 or even 70 now is a good retirement?
Yeah, so I like that you asked that, because I'm actually now silently campaigning that, retirement age must be moved forward. Why? Because I'm closer to it. But I really don't think that when someone turns 60 or 65, they totally stop being useful and productive. In fact, you are losing, decades of experience. You're losing decades of expertise. I think we should always find ways to harvest that experience that they have. So the way that I look at retirement is that I think, much as they may come out of mainstream employment, we must always find a way of harvesting that knowledge. And this is where we come up with our innovation hub, where we breed entrepreneurs. Nothing stops us to work with people who are pre-retirement and say, look, this is what you've done most of your life in the workplace. How can you make sure that you secure a post-retirement life that still uses that expertise and experience that you have? And then we nurture them into doing things that they already know. Because it's one thing to try and do something new when you're in retirement and start from there. Chances are it will likely fail. But if you're using what you've always been doing, that pre-retirement thing, so work within your passion. Start something that is within your passion. Find a way of feeding back into value chains that I think you're most likely to succeed. And I just want to throw this, that we always talk about legacies and passing on legacies. Yeah. But we've always talked about it as passing on a legacy, as in passing on an asset, passing on, a trust with a couple of properties. But I also think that there's legacies in passing on the things that we know, the relationships that we've built, the networks that we've built. So if you're also pre-retirement, think about, how are you passing on that knowledge to the next generation? Are you coaching, mentoring others? Your own children, are you passing it on? It will be nice to see, and I totally admire families where you see from generation to generation, there's lawyers and more lawyers, because you know what? There's a wealth of knowledge and there's a wealth of networks that is transferred from generation to generation in those families. So you'll find that the 4th generation lawyer can be so powerful because of the 1st generation and what they've invested. So that's what I would say to our pre-retirees, that look at it as legacy building. What are you building into that goes further? And then also work within your passion and work within what you know and invest back into value chains that you're familiar with.
Okay, so let's actually personalize it. When you look at your parents, what did they pass down to you?
So my parents were scientists. So I'm not a typical example. I'm not a good example because I then went into accounting. But what they passed on are value systems. Mm-hmm. What they passed on to me was that one, it's important to be educated because they invested in my education, but also that it must not stop at education, because education is one thing. You have acquired something, but you need to transfer it into knowledge that then transfers into value. So what my parents taught me was that learn. But once you've learned, do something with what you've learned, translate it into value and build something. So I think that's the legacy that I would also want to pass on. I think it's just learn, be educated. And the Zimbabweans, we are said to be very well educated. I do believe that because we have the certifications. But what I'm not sure is whether we are knowledgeable, that we are really transferring what we've learned into knowledge and knowledge into value. So I think that's yet another, legacy that I would want to see. go on.
Okay, so what might surprise you is, the hour that we've spent together, I would say that you think like a scientist. You certainly convey your information like a scientist, and you've got the high conscientiousness
really?
of a scientist. Yeah,
There we go.
we've done this numerous times for us to know how people behave. But continuing with that, what have you passed on to your kids? What are your kids like?
So my kids are still very young, but the one thing that I pass on to them is that, discipline. So I'm a very disciplined person. So when I need to do something, it has to be done, and it has to be done to a certain degree of excellence. And even as young as they are, they understand that when things have to be done, they have to be done. There is no room, to just, not do things that you're supposed to do. So discipline has been one of the key things. But I've also taught my children that at the end of the day, they respect that no matter where you are in life, I think you must have the ability to be able to respect any person that you interact with. That in this lifetime, even though there's 8 billion of us, you might only be able to, intimately interact with just a few. The few that you interact with, there's a reason why you connect with them, respect them, and learn from people. So that's what I've kind of passed on to them for now. I'm hoping that I can convert them and be able to pass on my disciplines that I've done, whether it's accounting or law, and into insurance, so that they can also tap into the networks that I've built as a legacy going forward.
Okay, all right.
But at this stage, my son wants to be a soccer player. So,
Well, let's see how that plays out. So, Rufaro, just thinking around, when you look at the generations and when you look at retirement, and she said some critical things. Do you think that there's value in us moving the retirement age to maybe 80, 85? Because people are living longer. The whole essence of retirement at 65 was before World War II, I think, when it was introduced. People lived up to maybe 60, 50 on average, and 60 was like,
Yeah, look, I think the basis for a lot of these age, benchmarks, is out of date, right? The world has changed. I always make the point, about the voting age being at 18. That not everybody who's 18 is mature and responsible and wise enough to vote. Some people are actually at that level at 14 or 15, and some people should
30.
never vote.
their whole life.
They just so and we all age differently. So some people at 75 are vibrant and life loving and can work 50-60 hour weeks. And some people, by the time they're 50, just are out of it. So I think this idea that we're all going to be at this place in terms of our cognitive and energy levels, at 65 or 60, I think that's an outdated way of looking at the world. And also from just an economic perspective, because we're living longer. And if you set the retirement age at 65 and start paying out pensions and benefits at that early age, you're going to bankrupt a lot of governments and pension funds. So we're actually not doing ourselves any favors. And the other thing that I've learned is that people don't do well in retirement. This idea that you spend decades of your life getting out of bed, and you have a whole day with things to keep you engaged, and then you just wake up one day because you've hit some special age and you have nothing to do all day.
Yeah.
I don't think that's healthy for the retirees, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do well mentally when they've retired, and their health just deteriorates because they're disengaged.
Yeah.
So
it's the disengagement. So I think we need to always find ways to make sure that they continue to be, intellectually engaged and remain relevant and contributing something. And, my own mom, I think she was retired at 60 when she was planning to retire at 65. And I won't mention the institution, but she was just telling me that the peers that she retired with at 60, quite a number of them dropped dead. Like they literally died because they were not ready for just not anyone looking for you, that you're just waking up, going into your vegetable garden, your phone is not ringing, no one is finding you important. I think that plays on your mental wellness as well, because deep down within us, there's always that need to want to add some value. You want to be able to do something, to live within some level of purpose, which is why we're saying that the retirement planning must happen way early, and you must start doing the things that you love so that you can continue doing those things that you love post. So it can't be a date. It can't be a day. It can be 65 and I'm out and the phone stops ringing. I think there must be things that continue going.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, and we know we're going to live longer, what do you have planned out for the next 4 or 5 decades of your life? What's going to happen?
Well, that's I would tell you, but I mean that those are quite personal plans. But what I can tell you is that certainly I will be utilizing all my skills. That I'll be bringing forth my experience and taking it forward. But more importantly, that I will do my best to make sure that I pass forward whatever I have and build a legacy of leaders. I love leadership development. I've even done a leadership coaching course. So I love paying forward. I love passing things down. So a lot of my next decades are going to be centered around that, whether I'm in a leadership position, I'm a leader that coaches, I'm a leader that passes on, and you will be seeing a lot of that.
Okay, fantastic. Anyway, Gloria, thank you very much for joining us. I certainly learned quite a bit. I am not retiring at 65, so yeah, there's one. But thank you very much for joining us. And to our audience, we're still here. It's Friday Drinks and Sahwira Marketplace. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.